A man named Sven wakes up from a nightmare. In his dream, he sees his wife, Paula, telling him she loves him. When he checks the time, he realizes they overslept. He quickly wakes his hearing-impaired daughter, Charlie, and helps her put on her hearing aid. Then they rush to an outdoor screen where all the locals have gathered. The screen shows live footage of a spaceship entering Earth's atmosphere. As the ship gets closer, Charlie asks when the parachutes will deploy, showing that she knows a bit about space travel. Sven becomes nervous as it is revealed that one of the astronauts on the ship is Paula, his wife. Paula's partner, Hadi, notices that the automatic parachute system is not working. He urges Paula to deploy the parachutes manually after snapping her out of her trance-like state. Finally, the spaceship lands successfully, and everyone celebrates. A team is sent to retrieve the astronauts, along with Benicia, a billionaire who funded the entire project. Next, Paula calls Sven and tells him something strange has happened to her. Suddenly, the call begins to break up. Paula realizes her phone is being tapped and shares some odd messages that confuse Sven and says goodbye. In the morning, Sven and Charlie drive to the airport to pick up Paula. At the airport, they meet Paula's instructor, Rainer, and Hadi's wife, who is there with her 2 boys to wait for the astronauts. Then they are informed that the flight is delayed. Chaos breaks out in the airport as people try to understand what is happening. During the commotion, a mysterious old woman who was waving at Charlie earlier tries to hand Sven a note. However, Sven brushes her off. Soon after, it becomes clear that the plane carrying Paula and Hadi has disappeared. The families are given rooms to stay in, and Sven and Charlie head to theirs. That night, Sven reads Charlie a book about early human space programs, including Voyager 1. The book explains that Voyager 1 carried a message from humanity, which included a map showing Earth's location. It also carried recordings of pictures, sounds of trees, and people speaking in every language. Eventually, Voyager 1 traveled beyond the edge of our solar system. The story takes us back to 3 months earlier. Paula and Hadi have just docked with the International Space Station, ISS. The astronauts there tease them for having their mission privately funded. Paula and Hadi are working on anti-aging research, testing if the body's healing cells can be regenerated. In the present, Sven attends a meeting with officials. They inform him that search teams found floating wreckage in the water earlier that day. They assume there are no survivors and will continue the investigation. Sven leaves heartbroken, and outside, some people attack Rainer. Later, Sven is questioned by a federal agent named Timmy. Timmy asks if Paula acted strangely during their last phone call. He also points out that Paula delayed deploying the parachutes during landing by nearly 50 seconds, which could have been fatal. Sven grows angry and leaves. As he exits, he notices flowers and candles placed near the airport in memory of the casualties. Next, Sven meets Nora, Benicia's assistant, who gives Charlie a gift from Benicia. That night, Sven and Charlie return home. Sven puts Charlie to bed and then listens to a voicemail from Paula. In the message, Paula reminds him that St. Nicholas's Day is their 10th anniversary and says she wants to celebrate it together. Sven finds this strange because their anniversary is not on St. Nicholas's Day. He calls Mira to discuss the voicemail, but Mira is distraught because the police are still holding her and her sons in their rooms. Confused, Sven watches the spaceship landing footage in the press conference. He notices something odd. The recordings weren't live. The timestamps are off by 90 minutes. He calls Rainer to ask for answers, but Rainer dismisses his concerns, saying Sven is acting strange because his wife, Hadi, and almost 200 others just died. In the morning, Charlie watches the news and learns about her mother's death. Sven confirms it to her, and they share an emotional hug, grieving their loss. Later, 2 federal agents visit Sven. They play a recording of a radio signal from the missing plane. In the recording, Paula tells Sven that he can't do it alone. The agents then ask Sven why Paula was in the cockpit. The scene shifts to Paula during her time in space. She hears a voice saying hello through the ISS radio and responds, thinking it is Charlie. However, she quickly realizes she is in the dead zone, where no frequencies from Earth can be heard. Alarmed, she records the sound and writes down the coordinates of the signal on her hand. Then she wakes Hadi and plays the recording for him. Hadi tells her the signal is not from Earth, as the satellite is pointing away from it. He explains that it is an extraterrestrial sound mimicking human voices. Paula wants to inform the ISS astronauts, but Hadi warns her that the government might remove them from the project since they are privately funded. He suggests they focus on finding the signal again, and the two get to work. Back at Sven's house, more agents arrive to conduct a search while Sven and Charlie are made to wait outside. Then one agent, Friederike, questions Paula's parents, who came to visit, but no one provides any answers about what is happening. The scene shifts back to Paula in space. She feels something moving under her skin as Hadi tells her they need to begin a digital grid search for the signal. Hadi asks if she has found anything, but Paula, clearly exhausted, says no. Back in the present, Sven has dinner with Paula's parents. During the meal, Paula's mother mentions that if what they suspect is true, the deaths of everyone else are on their conscience. She hints that Sven knows what she means, revealing that both he and Paula's parents are hiding something they are unwilling to share with the authorities. Later, Sven enters Paula's room and finds Charlie sitting by the radio, waiting for her mother. The scene shifts again to Paula in space. She decides to inform the ISS astronauts about the strange voice she heard. She plays the recording for them, but there is no voice, only her own. Confused, the astronauts don't know what to make of it. Hadi tries to brush it off, saying it was just a joke, referencing how they were teased when they first arrived. However, Paula is deeply unsettled. She recalls the time she visited a house of mirrors with Sven after taking some drugs, which led to her having a manic episode and being hospitalized. Feeling increasingly uneasy, Paula returns to her sleeping quarters. She sees something moving under her skin again. Desperate, she cuts herself to reveal what might be inside, but there is nothing. Blood droplets float in the zero-gravity environment as Paula hurriedly patches herself up. Next, Paula and Hadi have a private conversation. Hadi denies ever hearing the mysterious voice. Paula confides in him that she is seeing and hearing things that aren't really there, and Hadi advises her to rest. In the present, Sven meets with Mira, worried that Paula might have had a manic episode in space, similar to the one she experienced at the House of Mirrors. He reveals that Paula was diagnosed with psychosis and had been prescribed medication. Mira is shocked because Paula passed all her pre-mission blood tests. This is what Sven and Paula's parents have been hiding from the federal agents this whole time. Sven rushes home and searches the bathroom, where he finds Paula's hidden medication. This discovery confirms his fear. Paula stopped taking her medicine and may have been hallucinating while in space. The next morning, Sven wakes up to find his house surrounded by news reporters. It has been declared that Paula and Hadi might have deliberately caused the plane to crash. As Sven processes this, Charlie notices the old woman from the airport standing among the reporters and signaling for her to come over. Charlie ignores her and heads downstairs for breakfast. There, she learns that the reporters have been joined by angry civilians who blame Paula for the deaths of the passengers. Back to Paula's time in space, she calls Benicia and confesses everything about the voice and her decision to avoid taking her medication just to qualify for the mission. Benicia reassures Paula, calling her a visionary, and encourages her to stop worrying about her hallucinations. In the present, Sven returns inside after confronting an angry civilian outside. Charlie is waiting for him and says she has spoken with Paula. This shocks Sven, as he believes Paula is dead. Frustrated, he takes Charlie's communication device and tells her to stop imagining things. Upset, Charlie goes to bed angry. Later, Raynor calls Sven and confirms that Sven was correct about the fake live footage. He explains that the government is hiding something. However, before he can say more, Raynor abruptly ends the call, saying someone is at his door and he never calls back. Sven decides to drop Charlie off at Mira's house and then goes to Raynor's place. When he arrives, he finds that Raynor is missing. While searching the house, he discovers a file hidden under the microwave with his name on it. He reads the file, and his face changes as he is visibly shocked. He takes the file and leaves. Sven rushes back to Mira's house but finds that Charlie is not there. Panicked, he goes outside and sees the angry civilian driving away in his car, possibly with Charlie in the back seat. Back to Paula's time in space, she checks her injured arm and sees the coordinates she wrote earlier. Realizing she wasn't hallucinating the sound, she goes to the radio room. There, she secretly watches as Hadi switches the tape recordings and repeatedly listens to the mysterious voice. Realizing she can't trust Hadi anymore, Paula heads to her quarters, crying. In the present, Sven chases the car that kidnapped Charlie. He manages to stop the car, but she is not inside. In frustration, he beats the driver, only to realize it's just an angry man who lost his family. Feeling defeated, Sven returns home and remembers Charlie saying she had talked with Paula. He sets up the communication device to try contacting Paula, but has no success. Searching for answers, he goes through Charlie's diary and finds an address. Meanwhile, Charlie walks all night and eventually reaches a junkyard with a large radio antenna. Back to Paula's time and space, now unable to trust Hadi, Paula comes up with a plan. She tricks everyone by pretending there is a leak in the station, causing them to rush to check it. When they lock the radio room to investigate, she secretly sneaks inside. Entering the coordinates from her hand, she listens to the voice again. This time she feels relief, knowing she is not hallucinating. She also discovers that the source of the sound is getting closer. Paula informs Benicia, who tells her to keep this a secret, as the source is expected to arrive in a few weeks. In the present, Sven is stopped by federal agents Timmy and Friederike, who confront him with video footage of him at Reiner's house. Sven asks Friederike why people who want to speak up keep disappearing. Frustrated, he refuses to waste time talking and takes Friederike in his car to show her the file he found. She reads it and is shocked to see that it reveals something is coming. Realizing the magnitude of what is being hidden, she sits in disbelief, feeling that everything is being covered up. Sven then drives with Friederike to the address from Charlie's diary, but drops her off in the middle of a cornfield. He gives her what Reiner wrote about the plane crash, hoping she gets to the bottom of it, and acknowledges that she now knows the truth too. Next, Sven arrives at the abandoned backyard and meets the old woman who had been at his house earlier. She removes a tracker from his car and attaches it to a pigeon to mislead whoever is following him. The woman explains that she gave Charlie the location of this place and some recordings of Paula, which made Charlie believe Paula was still alive. Sven reunites with Charlie, and they share an emotional hug as he promises to always be there for her. Meanwhile, investigators recover the black box from the crashed plane. The recordings reveal that Paula was not responsible for the crash. Next, the old woman shares the voice Paula heard and reveals that she also heard it, but 2 years before Paula did. She explains that she wanted to contact Paula after learning about her investigation, but couldn't risk being tracked. Sven then shares the secret file with the old woman, showing her that the source of the signal is approaching Earth. Meanwhile, Friederike discovers that the footage from Reiner's house was blacked out before Sven entered. Realizing something is amiss, she brings Timma to her house for privacy. Together, they investigate Reiner's disappearance and uncover a strange detail. One person didn't board the plane, yet their luggage was found on it. That person is Nora, Benicia's assistant. Friederike and Timmy decide to inform Sven in person, fearing that calling would be too risky. Timmy then sends Sven a text, however, on their way. A truck crashes into their vehicle, stopping them. Next, Sven talks with the old woman and realizes Paula wanted him to make the information public. Before they can act, the pigeon returns, signaling that the government has tracked them. Soldiers soon surround them. Sven takes Charlie and escapes into the woods, while the old woman hides in her escape room. Unfortunately, Sven and Charlie are caught by the soldiers before getting far. Back in Paula's time and space, she and Hadi finish their mission and celebrate their departure. Later, Paula confronts Hadi, telling him she knows the truth and has the coordinates of the landing site, but refuses to share them. Hadi, desperate, locks Paula in a decompression chamber. With only 3% oxygen left, Paula finally reveals the coordinates and reveals this to the ISS, which broadcasts her message back to Earth. In the present, Sven and Charlie are taken to a military base where they find Reiner. Reiner explains that there is no grand government conspiracy. Instead, the government is unsure how to handle the situation and has decided to play it safe. He reveals they plan to shoot down the alien craft because history has taught them to fear any civilization with advanced technology. They believe such a civilization can't have good intentions. At the designated time and location, the military fires on the craft, causing a massive explosion. Afterward, 2 military officers inform Reiner, Sven, and Charlie that the event has been made public and they are no longer bound by state secrecy. Sven and Charlie are allowed to return home. Later that night, after Charlie falls asleep, Sven notices coordinates written on her hand. He realizes Paula must have given them to her. The scene shifts to the spaceship as Paula and Hadi prepare to land. Hadi asks Paula for forgiveness, explaining that he acted as he did because someone threatened his children. After landing, Benicia informs Paula that the government has already decided to destroy whatever lands that day. In the present, Sven realizes Paula gave the ISS the wrong date and time for the source of the sound. He notices the correct details on Charlie's hand, realizing there will be another contact tomorrow. Meanwhile, the news reports that yesterday's attack on the craft was not legitimate and announces a search for Sven and Charlie. Back to Paula and Benicia's time. Paula admits she gave the ISS incorrect coordinates and asks Benicia for help in making the truth public before the government destroys the evidence. She reveals that the correct coordinates are safe with her family. Benicia agrees to help, but later Paula sees her talking to Hadi and realizes he has been working with Benicia all along. Meanwhile, Sven and Charlie are being chased by the military. They narrowly escape with the help of the old woman, but are later ambushed by Benicia's men, who force their car off the road. When Sven and Charlie wake up, they find themselves in Benicia's place. Under pressure, Charlie reveals the location and time of the source of the sound. Next, they board a helicopter with Benicia to head to the contact location. On the way, Sven receives a text from Timmy, sent before his death, warning him that Benicia is responsible for the plane crash. However, Sven's phone has been tapped by Nora, who informs Benicia about the message. Benicia admits she caused the crash to stop Paula from exposing the truth, but says she regrets the loss of lives. When they arrive at a desert, Benicia's private soldiers and others are performing a ritual, waiting for the source of the sound to arrive. However, nothing happens. Frustrated, Benicia accuses Charlie of misleading her and demands the correct coordinates. When Charlie insists she doesn't know, Benicia shoots Sven to force her to talk, but Charlie remains silent. Next, Sven tells Benicia that Paula had hallucinations and that everything she believed might have been in her head, making the plane crash a tragic waste. Furious, Benicia orders Nora to kill both Sven and Charlie. However, Nora secretly spares them, pretending to carry out the order. Once everyone leaves, Sven tells Charlie that the coordinates were correct, but the date is on St. Nicholas Day, a detail Paula mentioned in her voicemail. 3 months later, Benicia is arrested after Nora confesses to all her crimes, including the plane crash. On St. Nicholas Day, Sven and Charlie travel to the desert and wait for the source of the sound. Soon, something lands from outer space. When they approach, they discover it is Voyager 1. The voice they heard is the spacecraft's original recording of human voice samples stuck on a loop. For a brief moment, Sven and Charlie feel Paula's presence. They hear her voice saying she loves them, bringing them peace. Later, experts examine Voyager 1 and conclude it was sent back to Earth by someone. This discovery proves humanity is not alone in the universe. Whoever returned Voyager 1 seems to be friendly. World leaders begin forming peace treaties and work to unite humanity. The end. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like our channel and subscribe if you enjoy content like this. Also, let us know what movie you would love us to recap for you.